The thought of Xbox without Phil Spencer is a very dark thought indeed. But there's a lot of circles out there that are actively calling for Phil Spencer to either resign or to possibly even get fired, which I find to be pretty incredible considering all the great things that he's done for Xbox, right? And not just for that, but for gaming in general. Like, Phil Spencer has brought Xbox back to prominence after some of the darkest time ever. Not only has he done that, but think about this for just a minute, right? Think just for a minute. Xbox was about to close down, so you might not like him. And I've heard people go, well, Don Matrick was the man. He wasn't this bad. Look at the things that Don Matrick did. First of all, the whole reason why Xbox is in the situation that it's in is because of Don Matrick, folks. No other reason. This guy thought, hey, let's try to attract some of those Nintendo Wii users with the Kinect. Let's cancel a bunch of core games, focus on Kinect, not worry about the power of our box, force everybody to use the Kinect, and that ought to work out well. Hey, on top of that, let's make it always online and so that people can't share their games with their friends. So the backlash happened, right? Phil Spencer comes in, pulls out Kinect, lowers the price, really makes Xbox a contender. Obviously, by that time, PS4 had already taken, such a hold over the sales that Microsoft had no choice but to really pivot. Just the way that Nintendo pivoted. Nintendo pivoted away from traditional consoles, basically after the GameCube, right? The GameCube was unsuccessful. The Nintendo 64 was unsuccessful. Yes, I'm not saying that there wasn't good games on those platforms. I'm saying that those consoles got absolutely stomped by PlayStation in those generations. In fact, the GameCube got stomped by not only the PlayStation 2, but by the original Xbox as well. So it was sort of double bad news for Nintendo. So they come out with the Wii. It was a huge hit. A lot of people liked it. My grandma had one, my mom had one. But the problem was nobody ever really played one. I never knew a person who was like actively trying to play the Wii, right? It just seemed like it collected dust. We all have them. I have one right now. Still. Probably haven't turned that thing on in, a very long time. Probably 2008, something like that. So, well over 10, 12, 13 years, something like that. It's crazy because, again, at the end of the day, when we're kind of looking at things, it was a successful console, but was it really successful in terms of the ability to sell software and things like that? Probably not. Meanwhile, Microsoft has been able to do incredible things. Phil Spencer's idea was to buy Minecraft. That worked out extremely well. Phil Spencer decided to do like the Play Anywhere stuff. Look, I'm not a big fan of all this stuff. I like the Play Anywhere stuff. I don't care about that stuff, right? The cloud stuff. I don't care about that stuff. If that's what he had to use to get them to believe in Xbox, so be it, right? His plan to buy Bethesda, his plan to buy Activision, Game Pass was his idea. All this stuff was his idea, and, the level of hate he gets, despite the fact that, everybody would overlook, listen, Sony right now is going into a lull with their first party. I know people don't believe it, but one first party game over the next fiscal year from now until April of 2024 is a lull. It's sparse. I don't care how many third party deals you got. I'm talking first party, and that's a lull, right? Yet, they get away with it. Microsoft, on the other hand, and I'll be honest, Sony, I think that probably the stuff that they have stuff that have probably internally fallen behind. The pandemic, everything kind of closing down, everybody locked behind closed doors, the lockdowns, that all affected everybody. And it wouldn't affect everybody in 2020 or 2021 or necessarily 2022. The real effect would be right now. And that's what we're starting to see. Stuff wasn't announced per se, but it's lining up to be that way. So you had basically, say, Ghost of Tsushima launch in 2020, right? So Sucker Punch did that in 2020. Here we are in 2023, about 2.5 years later. Undoubtedly, they're working on Ghost of Tsushima 2. Okay, but they started work on that right as the lockdown started and things like that. That game could be another few years out still, right? Same thing with Naughty Dog. They were doing The Last of Us 2. It released in 2020. They also did the remake of The Last of Us 1 for some unknown reason. Also have been working on a multiplayer game, the update to factions or whatever for 4 years now. So the next time they do a single player game could be 2027, 2028. I mean, that's not unfathomable to think that, right? And even at some studios, like, if you think about it, the Days Gone studio, Bend. Days Gone came out when? 2019? I mean, 4 years ago. I'm just saying, and we haven't seen anything. You know, they've got Guerrilla Games pretty much bogged down with Horizon games, Horizon Forbidden West, Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West remake is rumored to be in the works. The VR game, there's supposedly a multiplayer game or MMO type game. Yeah, they've got a lot of that stuff in the works. But to think that Phil Spencer should be fired or quit is unfathomable and unbelievable. Imagine this for a minute, right? And again, I agree that games are the most important thing. But they should be afforded the same sort of pass as everybody else for right now, right? If a year, 2 years from now, maybe I'd be there with you. But where we're standing right now is they had to fight their way through, you know, letting their developers make multi-plats that they had just acquired, contractually obligated to do that for some of them. Some of them had to make PlayStation exclusives for a year, right? Then it takes time to build the next game and on to the next one and on to the next one. So, you know, we kind of have that. Like, I look at 343 as an anomaly. They really dropped the ball. I thought they've had bad leadership there for a long time. That looks like it's finally changing around. But I think that Microsoft is well on the right path. And if you replace Phil Spencer, you lose what little goodwill and kindness that people in the media have towards Xbox because everybody likes Phil, right? And I'm not saying that that's enough that should be, but I'm saying that if you replace him with some suit or somebody else, and that's exactly what would happen. And I'm not trying to be sexist or anything here, but Microsoft as a company would probably replace him with a woman or, you know, something along those lines, maybe Amy Hood or somebody that probably doesn't know gaming nearly as well as Phil. Nothing's going to get done any faster. We're in an industry that does not allow crunch anymore. You cannot sit there and get away with crunch. You can't really get away with much of anything anymore these days. And, you know, and it's really unfortunate that type of stuff is happening because, you know, we used to see a lot of things happen back in the day where, you know, Microsoft, you know, they can't get away with anything, you know, and that's unfortunate that happens, you know. That's the sad part of this whole thing is that people are actively calling for this guy to lose his job, and that never made sense to me because Phil, even though I haven't always got along with him, I've always felt like he was good at the whole Xbox thing, right? Like, who else would have had the balls to go up there right after Redfall launched and did what he did? Like, that interview, you could tell that he was genuinely upset by the things that were going on, you know, and it was unfortunate that was happening, and it does suck. But I think that people that are like, oh, well, fire Phil, that never made much sense to me because Phil Spencer is a consummate professional. He's always like trying to do kind of what's best for the gamers, you know, and to this point, I haven't seen anyone that would really be a better person for the job, to be quite frank. I think maybe some people that hate Xbox think somebody would come in, get rid of Game Pass for some unknown reason, because that's really smart, right? Hey, let's get rid of the best thing Xbox has going for it. Let's then what? I'll suddenly poop out the games because we're going to be able to get them out much faster. Like, nobody knows how this stuff works. That's the funny part. Game creation is hard, and sometimes things go south. It has done that for every studio. Look at the comebacks of something like Sony Santa Monica. Back in 2014, they had a brand new IP canceled, over 100 people fired from the staff, right? That team was was helping on games like Hokum before they started the new God of War for 2018. And even one of the first build of that got torn up and thrown away because they didn't like it. It wasn't fun. Yoshida said, hey, this sucks. And so they threw it. Like, this is what happened. Pixel Opus from Sony. They just got shut down. We don't even know what they were working on, but they were years into that project. We never know what's going on behind closed doors, but things are always happening. Things are always sort of coming along at a certain type of way. And the fact is that people are like, oh, well, fire Phil, fire Phil, fire Phil. They're making more money, and I get it. Why are you cheerleading a company's money? I'm not. I'm saying, I'm using that as a reason why on earth would you want to fire the guy that has brought your company more money than they ever have had before, right? And all these brilliant ideas that Xbox has are Phil's ideas. So it never made sense to me. Like, the people rally behind him, the fans love him. Why on earth would we start to see something else happen from this, right? Like, why would it make sense to get rid of him? Like, people really think, honestly, in your heart of hearts, you think that Phil Spencer being gone and somebody else being brought in is going to suddenly get you a bunch of games out? How does that work? You know, I'm seriously worried about that. Like, how does that work to you all? I'm very curious. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. How do you think that works for Xbox? Getting rid of Phil. Do you think suddenly you're going to get a bunch of games? Please let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.